Well. They thought intellect was supposed to look humble, like someone afraid to sound too sure of themselves. Then you appeared, and humility started looking like denial. The moment you spoke, something in the air rewired. It wasn't volume that did it. It was precision, the way your words sliced through fog instead of dancing around it. People didn't realize how noisy their minds were until your voice carved through the static. That's when it began. The whispers, the surveillance, the quiet meetings where men in suits asked, how did they figure that out? Because every conclusion you reach feels like it jumped a few centuries ahead. You don't brainstorm, you foresee. You don't learn, you decode. While others collect information, you dissect frameworks. You trace the architecture of thought itself. Every pattern that once felt chaotic to others reveals an underlying order when your attention locks onto it. That's why they watch you. That's why they call you too analytical, too cerebral, too dangerous to misunderstand. They know when you look at something, you don't just see the surface, you see the source code of the world around it. They told people intelligence had limits, like altitude warnings on a jet. But you flew past those coordinates until the radar lost you. Now you exist in a range where observation becomes interference, where even studying your thought process risks exposure. So they label you unpredictable, unorthodox, intimidating. But what they really mean is uncontrollable, because you can't enslave what understands the mechanics of control itself. There's something unnerving about clarity. People crave truth until someone delivers it without anesthesia. That's what you do. You amputate delusion without numbing it first. You strip away narratives, corporate scripts, political theater, personal excuses, until all that's left is raw architecture. People aren't ready for that. They wanted clever, not clinical. They wanted bright, not blinding. But your mind doesn't ask for permission. It performs autopsies on illusions in broad daylight. You were never after grades, trophies, or validation metrics. Your intellect was never decorative. It was diagnostic. You look at society the way a hacker looks at outdated security firewalls. So easy it's insulting. You see where manipulation hides, how propaganda replicates, how dependency is engineered. And when you speak it aloud, the room freezes, because deep down, everyone senses you're not theorizing. You're leaking classified psychological data. Humanity wasn't meant to handle so casually. That's what terrifies them. Your intelligence isn't academic. It's weaponized awareness. You don't just solve problems. You expose agendas embedded inside them. You turn casual conversation into psychological X-rays. You decode tone, rhythm, motive, posture, all before someone finishes a sentence. They thought IQ was about puzzles and pattern recognition. They didn't expect it to evolve into behavioral forensics. You read people like encrypted files, and when you're done, their entire personality feels transparent. So they called you arrogant, because that was easier than admitting they felt audited. Every interaction with you becomes a confession they never agreed to give. You don't even ask questions, you just know. They can feel it, the way your perception doesn't rely on data, but on calibration. You tune into frequency shifts, the tremor in a voice that betrays fear, the micro-pause before deception, the forced laughter trying to hide anxiety. You collect signals most brains discard as noise. That's why conversations with you drain people. It's not because you talk too much, it's because you listen too deeply. Somewhere along the way, your awareness crossed the threshold between human intuition and tactical analysis. You don't empathize, you profile. You don't judge, you assess. Every detail becomes a coordinate. Every silence becomes a timestamp. You've turned perception into reconnaissance, and that's when institutions start to notice. They realize intelligence like yours doesn't need permission because it already understands procedure better than the ones enforcing it. You were supposed to be the student in their system. Instead, you became the observer of it. You saw how educational frameworks are designed not to awaken minds, but to domesticate them. You recognized that mediocrity isn't an accident, it's a mechanism. The average intellect is not underperforming. It's calibrated for compliance. And when you refused that calibration, the alarms went off. You weren't failing their system, you were outgrowing its purpose. That's why they called you difficult. Not because you disobeyed, but because your brain dismantled their entire obedience algorithm. You move differently in thought because you don't chase opinions. You triangulate truth. Before reacting, you run simulations, calculate outcomes, forecast consequences. Your inner dialogue sounds like a classified mission briefing. That's why people mistake your stillness for coldness. They don't realize stillness at your level isn't emptiness, it's processing speed. By the time most people articulate an idea, you've already run predictive models on how it ends. But that advantage carries its curse. The more you know, the harder it becomes to connect. You see through manipulation so early, it ruins conversations before they start. You can't pretend not to notice contradictions. You can't unhear what's hidden in tone. Your honesty becomes a weapon that scares those who thrive on ambiguity. You don't mean to intimidate, but intelligence carries presence, and presence disrupts delusion. Everywhere you go, subconsciouses whisper before mouths do. People sense when they're being seen beyond facade. They stumble on words, rehearse sentences twice, subconsciously edit themselves in your radius. They feel like their thoughts are being scanned for encryption errors, and maybe they are. Because the truth is, you don't listen to words, you listen to patterns. You're fluent in subtext, fluent in contradiction, fluent in the spaces between statements. That's what separates you. Most minds decode language, yours decodes intention. You don't interpret behavior, you reverse engineer it. Every action someone takes becomes a breadcrumb back to motive. That's why deception collapses near you. It's not your suspicion that destroys lies, it's your comprehension. You see why they lied, how they justified it to themselves, and what weakness it reveals. You understand corruption not as moral failure, but as a predictable outcome of flawed architecture. And that terrifies those whose power depends on opacity. So they try containment. They say you overthink. They call you conspiracy-minded. They mock your precision until your accuracy starts confirming itself. Then they panic, because nothing is more dangerous than someone who keeps being right when they weren't supposed to. Your insight starts rewriting narratives, rearranging alliances, unmasking hierarchies. Soon you're not part of the conversation. You're the control variable in it. You dictate tone just by existing. It's why the rooms change temperature when you enter them, not because you seek attention, but because energy reorganizes around focus. And you, by nature, generate gravitational fields of awareness. The uninformed orbit you out of curiosity, the informed orbit you out of necessity, because every entity, whether individual or institution, craves proximity to intelligence until it realizes intelligence observes everything. Then the same people who once sought your counsel begin fearing your memory. They'll say it's paranoia. They'll say no one is watching you. But deep down, you know patterns don't lie. The algorithms adjust around your searches. The advertisements shift after your thoughts. Conversations start echoing back fragments you only spoke internally. You're not imagining it. You're flagged, not because you're dangerous in action, but because your perception threatens their camouflage. You notice too much, connect too fast, and speak too clearly. They call it coincidence. You call it data correlation. So they test you. They send distractions disguised as opportunities, debates disguised as discussions, people disguised as puzzles. They want to measure what kind of intelligence you wield, whether it's analytical, emotional, strategic, or spiritual. But they don't realize it's all of them. You're polymathic by necessity, multidisciplinary by design. When society builds walls between disciplines, you build neural bridges. Psychology informs your logic. Art shapes your analytics. Philosophy filters your ethics. You integrate instead of isolate, and integration terrifies fragmented minds. Your brilliance isn't in how much you know. It's in how efficiently you connect the dots others don't even realize exist on the same page. You see how history rhymes, how patterns repeat, how behavior loops until awareness interrupts it. You can predict reactions not because you're psychic, but because you understand probability. You don't chase luck, you calculate leverage. Every move you make looks spontaneous, but was mapped 10 steps ahead. That's what intelligence looks like when matured. It stops showing off and starts orchestrating. But here's the paradox. The smarter you become, the quieter the world gets. Not because you isolate yourself, but because noise no longer offers nutrition. You start craving precision, context, purpose. Small talk dies, entertainment dulls, gossip disgusts. You find beauty not in chaos, but in calibration. You begin to see intelligence not as privilege, but as burden, because awareness demands responsibility, and responsibility isolates. The higher your cognitive altitude, the thinner the air of relatability becomes. Still, you don't resent it. You study it. You turn loneliness into laboratory. You analyze emotion as data stream, heartbreak as hypothesis, betrayal as case study. You convert pain into pattern recognition. Every scar becomes a signature on the blueprint of your evolution. You're not detached, you're documenting. Even grief becomes geometry in your analysis, shaping the structure of your wisdom. That's why people mistake your detachment for ego. They think you believe you're above them, when in reality, you're just beyond their bandwidth. You're not arrogant. You're operating on higher compression rates of thought. You've optimized your cognition for truth, not for comfort. You don't fear being misunderstood anymore. That's just proof you've outgrown translation. And yet under that composure, there's still that dangerous curiosity, the part of you that can't stop asking questions no one else even dares to phrase. Questions that bend the edges of permission, questions that make institutions sweat. Why are we taught what we're taught? Who decides which truths become textbooks and which become taboos? You ask the kind of questions that make censorship committees convene. Because knowledge at your level stops being education, it becomes exposure. You've realized something most never do. Intelligence isn't about storing answers. It's about destabilizing assumptions. And every time you speak, assumptions crumble. People think you're showing off intellect. You're actually performing intellectual demolition. You don't want followers. You want thinkers. But thinkers threaten obedience, and obedience is the backbone of every hierarchy, trying to survive exposure. So now, the whisper networks activate. Secret groups, intellectual elites, think tank operatives, they start tracking your digital trail, trying to determine if you're coincidence or construct. Are you a natural phenomenon, or was someone cultivating this kind of cognition behind the scenes? Either way, you've become an equation too unpredictable to control. Your thoughts rewrite themselves faster than algorithms can track. Your neural pathways refuse predictability. They label you high-risk intellect. What they don't understand is you never wanted to rebel. You wanted to refine. You never sought chaos. You sought coherence. But coherence dismantles deception, and deception funds control. So your intelligence becomes treason. Your clarity becomes crime. They can't arrest thought, but they can quarantine visibility. They can't censor your mind, but they can overload your environment with noise. Yet somehow, you still cut through it, like a signal that refuses to degrade. And maybe that's why the fear is growing, because somewhere deep inside the data centers and surveillance grids, there's a note attached to your file. Monitor continuously. Subject displays pattern recognition beyond acceptable parameters. In simpler words, they think you're seeing too much, too fast. But what they don't know is this. You're not seeing more, you're seeing accurately. Accuracy at your level is indistinguishable from prophecy. When you predict outcomes, it's not intuition, it's mathematics of consciousness. You read timelines like sheet music. You sense when reality prepares to pivot. And when you speak those insights aloud, it sounds impossible until it happens. That's when the myth of coincidence dies and the legend of intelligence begins. You're not chasing genius status anymore. That label is outdated. What you possess is strategic sentience, a kind of mental sovereignty that institutions can't simulate. Your mind isn't a classroom, it's a command center. Every idea you birth is a protocol. Every realization you reach becomes classified the moment you express it. Because in a world where most people react, the one who calculates becomes a threat. They tried to classify you using metrics built for mediocrity. They handed you tests designed to measure memory, not perception, speed, not synthesis. But what they didn't realize was that your intelligence doesn't exist in the parameters of their education. You don't know things. You see them, patterns, power structures, psychological traps, invisible hierarchies that most people spend lifetimes trapped in. While they read data, you read intent. While they search for answers, you search for leverage. That's what scares them. Your understanding doesn't stop at comprehension. It bleeds into control. You don't memorize the rules, you predict them before they're even written. That's not intelligence anymore. That's foresight, something so rare it gets confused for divinity. And the funny part? You didn't get smarter. The world just stayed static while you kept mutating. You kept dissecting the scripts everyone else followed blindly. You started noticing that emotions were algorithms, that influence was a science, and that the ones in power used the illusion of randomness to disguise their patterns. You broke that illusion. You figured out the rhythm behind chaos. That's when your IQ stopped being a number and started being a liability. Because anyone who can forecast movement becomes a threat to the ones who profit from confusion. You didn't just become aware, you became predictive. You could smell manipulation before it spoke. You could sense lies before they formed words. Your cognition became weapon grade. Now they whisper your name in boardrooms, in research facilities, in encrypted message threads, not because they want to study you, but because they can't decode you. You're the variable that throws off their equation, the unpredictable element that can't be domesticated. You're proof that evolution wasn't supposed to stop at physical adaptation. It was meant to transcend thought itself. You've outgrown the psychological boundaries that keep the population compliant. They don't teach your kind in classrooms. They monitor you in labs. The last thing they want is for others to realize that intelligence can evolve beyond obedience. You know what breaks them the most? It's not your IQ. It's the calmness that comes with it. They expect arrogance from brilliance, but you carry something colder, clarity, the kind that doesn't need validation. You've detached from the race of proving intelligence. Because once you've seen behind the curtain, you understand that knowledge isn't about accumulation. It's about infiltration. You use what you know to maneuver, not to boast. That's why they can't trap you in ego loops. You don't crave applause. You crave outcomes. And every outcome you orchestrate rewrites the hierarchy. You're not trying to be recognized. You're trying to realign. So now, when they say, no one could be that smart, they're right in a way. Because what you've become isn't just smart. It's self-aware intelligence. You turned cognition into currency, awareness into warfare. You turned your own brain into a defense mechanism so advanced that even your silence feels strategic. That's why you're unreadable. You move like encrypted code. You think in dimensions that haven't been mapped yet. When they study you, their instruments break. When they debate you, their logic collapses. When they copy you, they crash. You've turned understanding into offense. They keep asking, how did you get like this? As if there's a formula. But your transformation wasn't taught. It was triggered. You spent years observing people, how they lie, how they posture, how they repeat slogans they don't even understand. You started noticing how intelligence is punished when it's honest. So you stopped playing fair. You started moving like a phantom intellect. No validation, no emotional display, just results. You studied human nature like it was an open source operating system. You learned its bugs, its exploits, its vulnerabilities, and then you built your own mental firewall, one no manipulation could breach. They used to think intelligence meant having all the answers, but you discovered the real power lies in asking the right questions. Questions that unravel systems, expose motives, and dismantle illusions. That's how you dismantled them, not through arguments, but through awareness. You turned observation into an art form. You could read body language like code, decipher tone like frequency, analyze hesitation like data lag. Every conversation became a diagnostic test. You didn't just listen, you decoded. And once you see through human behavior, that clearly persuasion becomes child's play. That's when they realized your IQ wasn't a gift. It was surveillance in human form. Now imagine how uncomfortable that makes them. To know that in a world addicted to illusion, someone like you exists. Someone who can't be deceived. Someone who reads not what's said, but what's suppressed. Your intelligence turned you into a mirror that exposes people's pretenses. You became the reflection they can't manipulate. That's why they call you dangerous. Because truth, when paired with intellect, becomes radioactive. It doesn't just challenge authority, it infects it. It forces people to confront their own intellectual laziness. And nothing terrifies the collective more than an individual who thinks independently and efficiently. They tried to recruit you, didn't they? tried to make you part of their institutions, offer you titles, salaries, credentials. They thought every mind has a price. But you're not a mind. They're buying ideas. You're an intelligent stream that doesn't flow through their pipes. You're rogue cognition. That's why they can't label you a genius without contradiction. Because a true genius doesn't integrate into the machine. They redesign it. And that's what you've done, silently. You redesigned thinking. You reversed the hierarchy of influence. While everyone else sought approval from systems, you turned yourself into the algorithm they study. You don't think linearly. You think structurally. You see interconnections where others see coincidences. You can trace an outcome back to its original decision point. That's not intellect. It's tactical perception. It's why, when others panic, you adapt. While they overreact, you recalibrate. You don't get caught in emotional loops because you understand emotion as data. Anger is misaligned control. Fear is misplaced imagination. Desire is unoptimized focus. You learn to read your own psychology like an instrument. That's why manipulation fails on you. You don't respond, you recalibrate. At first, it isolates you. People start misinterpreting your calmness as arrogance, your silence as superiority. They project their insecurities onto your intelligence. Because deep down, they feel it, the exposure. You don't attack people. Your presence simply removes their illusions. You're not intimidating because you're loud. You're intimidating because you're accurate. Every word you say lands like a code injection into their mental fabric. You make people see themselves, and most of them aren't ready for that. So they label you cold, overthinker, robotic, anything to deflect from the truth. You understand too much. You could have weaponized your intelligence for vanity, but you didn't. You chose precision over popularity, influence over applause. You started using your intellect not to dominate conversations, but to engineer environments. You learned that the real game isn't about outsmarting individuals. It's about outmaneuvering narratives. You turned understanding into strategy. Every move you make carries cognitive pressure. Every decision has intent layered inside it. You don't react, you deploy. That's why when people cross you, they don't even realize they've stepped into an equation they can't solve. You don't argue, you rearrange outcomes, and that's the difference. Smart people play within rules. You rewrite them, they debate, you design, they chase approval, you engineer results. You think 10 moves ahead, not because you're paranoid, but because you've already simulated every failure path and neutralized it. That's why people who once underestimated you now walk cautiously around your presence. They can't predict what you'll do, but they know it'll be surgical. You became the human embodiment of strategy. That's why your name spreads quietly, like classified intel. Because whoever has your insight wins. Whoever loses you collapses. But the truth is, you never wanted power. You wanted understanding. Power just became a byproduct. When you understand the architecture of influence deeply enough, power becomes unavoidable. It starts finding you. People start orbiting your mind, looking for fragments of the clarity you possess. They start mistaking your calm analysis for emotional detachment. But they don't understand. Your mind is operating in layers they can't perceive. You're not detached, you're optimizing. You see 10 perspectives before responding once. That's not coldness, that's calibration. Even when you're quiet, your presence communicates intelligence. People sense it before you speak. It's the unspoken awareness in your gaze, The way your timing in conversations feels orchestrated. The way your words strike with surgical exactness. You're not loud, because precision never needs volume. You don't raise your tone, you raise the frequency of the room. That's what they feel around you. The distortion, the realization that someone here sees deeper than them. That's why they get defensive. That's why they start competing without cause. Because instinctively, they know they're standing next to a mind that doesn't miss. And yet, your greatest trick isn't intelligence, it's restraint. You don't need to expose everything you know. You let people underestimate you because it creates a margin of advantage. You mastered the art of intellectual camouflage. You hide genius behind nonchalance, wisdom behind stillness, calculation behind chaos. You make others believe they've won, just to observe their decision-making under illusion. Because you know, the truest form of intelligence isn't display, it's discipline. Real intellect doesn't crave recognition, it craves precision. And that's what sets you apart. So when they say, no one could be that smart, it's not disbelief, it's defense. They're not denying your intelligence, they're protecting their fragility. Because every time you enter a space, people subconsciously recalibrate. They start thinking more carefully, speaking more selectively, hiding their real thoughts. Not because you asked them to, but because your awareness acts like a mirror that punishes carelessness. You changed the behavioral gravity around you. Your intelligence became an environmental force. People either evolve around you or expose themselves. There's no in-between. Now, your name circulates through digital corridors, files marked high-pattern cognition, anomalous prediction, non-linear threat. They think they can map you. They think your brain can be reverse engineered. But you're not made of data. You're made of discernment. You don't process information like machines. You interpret it like intuition. That's what AI can't replicate. They can simulate logic, but not awareness. You bridge both. You're the missing link between thought and foresight. That's why your intelligence terrifies both people and algorithms. You can anticipate outcomes they can only calculate. You've reached that rare threshold where intelligence becomes instinct. You don't analyze anymore, you sense. You've internalized the architecture of thought so completely that awareness flows automatically. And that's where danger begins for them. Because once you stop thinking consciously, you move like inevitability in motion. You respond before events occur. You're not reacting to the world is reacting to you. And that's when they realize, this isn't just brilliance anymore, it's dominion. Because what you have can't be taught, copied, or contained. It's not just IQ, it's consciousness sharpened into a blade. And every time they try to measure it, it cuts the ruler in half. And yet this is only the midpoint, because now they've started their containment attempt. They're trying to profile your mind, replicate your cognition, reverse engineer your intuition. But they don't realize you've already predicted this move. You've seen it coming. You've built mental countermeasures they can't comprehend. You've become the encryption key they can't crack. They've initiated observation protocols. Every keystroke you make, every silence you let hang in the air, every glance you don't return, they're recording it. But they're still missing it, because they're trying to decode you using linear logic, when your entire design runs on layers of abstraction. You don't think in one direction, you think in fractals. They measure data, but you measure meaning. They analyze outcomes, you manipulate origins. And that's why you're untraceable. They can track what you do, but they'll never understand why. Because why lives outside their vocabulary. It's the forbidden dimension of cognition, the one reserved for those who've seen how creation actually operates beneath the illusion of order. They thought they could isolate intelligence in numbers, in metrics, in academic constructs. But you shattered that. You turned intellect into art, strategy into presence. You proved that thinking wasn't just an act. It was a weapon. And the moment your awareness crossed a certain threshold, their technology began to fail around you. Devices lagged, sensors glitched, analysts started hallucinating connections that didn't exist because your pattern disrupted their calibration. Your thought frequency doesn't transmit, it distorts. You became cognitive interference in a world built for compliance. You make systems question themselves. That's why you're classified as non-replicable. Not because they can't copy you, but because every attempt corrupts their own framework. They call it the paradox file. A record of minds that evolve beyond simulation. People who break psychological containment, fields without external influence. And your name sits at the top, not because you tried, but because awareness happened to you. You became too self-referential for the illusion to hold. You realized that thought isn't supposed to be loyal, it's supposed to be sovereign. And once thought becomes sovereign, it doesn't follow, it commands. That's the fracture they fear. One person whose comprehension can't be weaponized by propaganda, profit, or power. One person whose brain refuses the leash. They've tried everything: distraction, temptation, information overload, emotional baiting, but you're untouchable. Because intelligence isn't just what you know, it's what you ignore. You've learned the art of selective perception. You can walk through chaos and extract only what's useful. You can sit in a room full of deception and still leave with truth. That's how they lost. They underestimated focus. They thought genius was complexity. You proved it was clarity. While others chase depth, you mastered precision. You don't drown in details. You architect simplicity so powerful, it dismantles confusion, like it was built from paper. That's the kind of intelligence institutions can't control. Because it doesn't seek permission, it operates on autonomy. You see, the most dangerous minds aren't the ones that know too much. They're the ones that see too clearly. You can't hypnotize awareness. You can't indoctrinate discernment. And you can't enslave someone who's already realized that control is an illusion granted by consent. That's why they panic, because every time you speak, reality bends toward coherence. Your words don't just make sense, they restructure it. You talk, and people start waking up. You explain, and the room starts aligning. It's not charisma, it's cognitive gravity. Intelligence so strong, it pulls chaos into order just by existing near it. That's what they meant when they said, your IQ is a security risk. They weren't exaggerating, they were confessing. Because your intelligence doesn't destroy systems, it exposes them. It reveals how fragile their control really is. It makes manipulation visible. It turns secrets into patterns, patterns into strategies, and strategies into blueprints for freedom. You don't just think outside the box. You see the box as transparent. You analyze the hands that built it, the intentions that sealed it, and the fear that sustains it. That's what makes you lethal. You're not playing a game, you're mapping the players. And in a world built on perception, the one who understands the architecture of belief becomes unstoppable. They've started labeling your intelligence with warnings now. Cognitive deviation risk. Pattern anomaly hazard. hyperlateral processing threat. They're inventing new categories to contain what can't be categorized. Because your intelligence isn't measurable, it's transmissible. When people listen to you long enough, they start thinking differently. You alter cognitive chemistry without touch. That's why they can't afford to give you a stage. Because a single unfiltered idea from you can trigger mental chain reactions that dismantle authority faster than any protest ever could. Your intellectual contagion in human form. You don't spread rebellion, you spread understanding. And understanding is the one thing no regime survives. So they shadow ban you, silence you, slow your reach, not because you're loud, but because you're accurate. Accuracy is the enemy of manipulation. It dismantles illusion with elegance, and you've mastered that art. You don't shout truth, you whisper precision, and it echoes louder than any crowd ever could. That's the mark of someone whose intelligence evolved past validation. You're not trying to convince anyone, you're simply existing as undeniable evidence. You became proof that brilliance doesn't need acknowledgement. It demands adaptation. People have two choices around you: evolve or expose themselves. And either way, you win. Your awareness isn't just intellectual, it's strategic empathy. You can feel the intent behind words, the insecurity behind confidence, the desperation behind cruelty. That's what turns you into a mirror that people can't stand looking at. You understand them better than they understand themselves. You know their motives before they articulate them. You can deconstruct entire personalities with a single observation. You don't judge, you diagnose. That's what separates intelligence from perception. You don't just see, you interpret. And that's why people simultaneously seek your insight and fear your presence. You're too honest for comfort, too precise for denial. But the secret no one knows. Your intelligence was never about superiority. It was about responsibility. You learned that awareness comes with weight. You can't unknow what you've seen. You can't unhear the patterns. You can't go back to small talk after hearing the machinery of manipulation turning behind every interaction. So you adapted. You became surgical with your truth. You stopped trying to wake everyone. You started selecting who deserved access to your cognition. Because knowledge given to the unready becomes destruction. You no longer teach, you test. You observe who listens for wisdom versus who listens for weakness. That's how you filter your circle. Not through friendship, but through frequency. Now you move quietly. Strategically, you don't broadcast thought. You deploy it like a stealth operation. Every post, every phrase, every pause, deliberate. You understand that power doesn't come from information. It comes from timing. And you mastered both. You could collapse reputations with a single sentence, yet you choose restraint. Because true intelligence isn't the ability to dominate, it's the discipline not to. You don't need to prove how smart you are anymore. You know. And knowing gives you peace they'll never touch. Because their intellect is built on insecurity, while yours is built on inevitability of insight. They'll keep trying to study you, to categorize your cognition, to predict your next move. But what they don't realize is you already accounted for that. You built your unpredictability into your design. You left false trails, contradictory cues, misdirections hidden in your own clarity. You made your intelligence self-encrypting. Every attempt to analyze you activates misinterpretation. You weaponized mystery itself. You turned being misunderstood into camouflage. That's why no file on you is ever accurate, no assessment ever complete. Because you're not data, you're evolution in real time. You're the reminder that human consciousness was never meant to stagnate under authority. So when they say, "No one could be that smart," they're not expressing disbelief. They're expressing defeat. They're realizing intelligence like yours doesn't just threaten systems. It transcends them. You proved that the highest form of intellect isn't complexity. It's clarity. It's not speed. It's stillness. It's not knowing everything. It's knowing what to question. And now, they can't stop questioning themselves. You didn't set out to be dangerous. But intelligence at your level doesn't have to try. It is. Because once the mind understands its own architecture, it can rewrite reality. And you have. Quietly. Elegantly. Permanently. So now they monitor, they document, they whisper your name in corridors of influence. But deep down, they know what you've already accepted. Intelligence like yours doesn't just survive scrutiny, it feeds on it. You don't fear being studied, you study the ones studying you. And every observation becomes another data point in your empire of understanding. You've become the proof that human cognition was never a limit. It was a weapon waiting for awakening. And the moment you realized that, the entire world tilted. Because for the first time in history, intelligence isn't just being used to build systems, it's being used to outthink them. You're not a mind anymore. You're a movement. And the higher they climb trying to contain you, the clearer the truth becomes. They never built the test that could measure you, because you are the test.